Crew, welcome to this short video on how to make an exterior protection plan to protect the exterior of a house during a renovation, whether that's interior or exterior. So I want to show this how to do this with using a case study that we did a few years ago. It's a renovation in the Kingsway of Toronto, so West End. This is what the home looks like before we started the project. So it's on a fairly, dense urban area. Each house has a driveway, but homes are close together, so close proximity to neighbors. We have existing trees in the front we want to protect as required by the City of Toronto. And we have things like driveways, greenscaping, everything that we want to think about and how to communicate to our crew and team how we want that site protected before we start. And just to give you a sense of the scope, this is what our project looks like at the end. So we added a second story to this project. It included a rear two-story addition and an addition to the second floor. So there's before, and there's after. So significant work that happens on a site like this, and it's why we need to have a careful attention to how we plan and execute the site protection. Here's what a completed site protection plan looks like. Effectively, we communicate through a key where we have the materials, so driveway protection, things like hand washing station, porta potty, TPZ areas, including areas for bin staging. And down at the bottom, we then indicate with a little key sort of what these different symbols are and what these different markings are to indicate what our intentions are. So let's go down and actually make one for this project. So the first thing we do is you open the site plan for whatever you're doing, an exterior protection plan, in any kind of software you can edit a PDF in. That could be Preview if you're working on a Mac. That could be Acrobat Pro if you're working on a PC. If you are familiar with more graphic tools, MS Paint is probably fine. Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, all of those will work. As long as you can draw on top of a PDF, this is what you're looking for. So within Preview, how we kind of start is at the top of this page, there's a markup tool on the top right corner. If I select that, it gives me different options I can do to draw on top of this site plan. So here's my site plan. I have a driveway through the sort of bottom of the page. The house sits tight to the upper property line. I now want to start drawing on my intentions for how to protect this plan. So after my analysis, I have a good idea of what I want to accomplish. And the first thing I want to do is protect the driveway. So by simply using a shape like this upper left and choosing rectangle, it gives me a sort of a yellow box right now. And right now it has some orange dotted lines around the perimeter. So I don't really want all of that. So within the shapes, there's two identifiers for the shape. One is the border. So right now it's set to orange. And if I put on this red cross, it turns off the border. We call that a stroke. And the interior of that shape is set to yellow, and I can make that any color I want. But for now, let's leave that as yellow. So if I want to protect the driveway, I take this shape. I'm going to drag it roughly into the shape I'm looking for. Now, the one thing this does is this shape now is completely obscuring what's behind it, and it's hard for me to communicate to my team what this thing is actually sitting on top of and how that's protecting it. So if I actually click on that box again to select it, go back to the colored information for that shape, so whether it's pink or whether it's yellow, that same dialog box, open up the color dialog, and down here I can change the opacity of that shape, and I'm going to set it to 50%. And I'll do that for all of my overlays. So now that I've got most of the driveway protected, I still have some areas of paving that I want to cover. So by simply taking my shape and control, copy paste, I'm going to make more, smaller rectangles to cover the remainder of that driveway. So just by resizing everything here. So I have a little piece left here at the back. Again, I'm going to grab that and copy it. And that way I don't have to keep going back to new rectangles and setting new transparencies. So now my driveway is protected. And I'm thinking about entrances to the home. So I have a front entrance here in the front of the house. Probably not the one I'm using the most. I've got a side door here and a rear entrance. So for safety's sake, I'm going to say that I'm going to cover these in plywood as well. So I'm going to copy that again and paste that in the front and say that, this front entrance would also be protected. And because I've got a crew here this day, I'm just going to say, let's also protect this deck side entrance here as well. Now, when I get to wanting to drawing line shapes and other types of site protection elements, I can go up and use a different tool. I can use the line tool. So by clicking on either looks like a pen or a pencil. I'll click on the pencil. I can select a line type. So let's say medium stroke, and I can do a dashed line. I can choose a color, let's say orange. So, once I design my tree protection zone, which we covered in a different video, I can draw this in the front. So if I'm looking at protecting this, tree number 3 and tree number 2 here, as they're quite large, I'd simply draw a line across the page. And if I don't want that solid line, I can just change the line type to a dashed line. And now I have a nice line that indicates my tree protection zone. And again, rather than redrawing it to make the rest of my TPZ, I can simply just drag it down, copy, paste, and then change the length of that shape. If I'm looking for a vertical line, again, I can copy, paste, grab the end, and then make a vertical line, move that into place in the front, make it a bit longer. Maybe I move it to left a bit so you can see it, so it's not sitting on top of that black line. And copy paste again. Whoops, I'm going to copy paste again into the front of the house. Drag that down. And I need more and more shape to close this. So I'm going to copy paste again. I'm going to grab the top and just match the corners up roughly. So I have that kind of box working for me. If I'm looking at doing things like line protection, and I want to indicate that as well, then again, I can go to line tool. I can indicate where the pole starts, so off in the street, and it comes into the house, kind of through here. Now this is confusing because I have now orange for my TBZ and I have orange for my line protection. Let's change this to perhaps red, and maybe even change the thickness of it so it's easier to read. So now it's a bit heavier. Okay, so I have a few elements. I can also indicate where I want things like my bin placement. So again, I can go back to rectangle, click on a rectangular shape, and you notice that it's set to yellow because that's what I was using for my plywood. It's also set to a red dash stroke line for the exterior because I had that turned on for my line tool. So if I simply turn off my border, change my color to, let's say my bin's gonna be blue, I can place that in the driveway where I want that to sit. And if I feel like that needs more emphasis, I can turn the stroke tool back on and just put a border around it. And maybe I should make that solid. Okay, so now that's sort of indicating where my bin is. And I can keep going and mark off where I want my material delivery zone to be, material staging to be, maybe indicate where I want my crew or subtrades to park. I can also indicate where I want my porta potties, hand washing station. Anything from the exterior protection perspective can be set up here. The last thing to do is we now need to indicate what all of these dashed lines are without really cluttering up this drawing. So what I'm going to use, I can use part of this page over here because it's not, a site plan for building. It's a site plan for protection communication only. So if I get to another box, and I'm going to set this to the right, and I'm going to use it for my key diagram background. So I'm going to make that a bit bigger. I don't need a blue background. I'm going to choose a white background, and I'm going to choose a black stroke. So now this is effectively operating like a mask on the drawing that I can now draw on top of. So what I can do is I can simply take all these different lines I have that I need to indicate to my crew what they are, and I'm just going to copy and paste them, make them a bit shorter, and then I can indicate, in a nice succinct list, what all of these different things are without going around the drawing and actually running them on top of everything and cluttering the whole thing up. So let's start with these 4. So I have my line protection at the top, which is the red. I have my TPZ, which is orange. I can just fix the alignment. I've got plywood for my driveway or my entrances, and I have a bin placement. So now the other thing I use is a text tool, and now at the top left, again, I click on the text button, and it's going to give me a text dialog box. I can move that to where I want it, up towards my line protection, and I can say this is line protection. Oh, if you spell it correctly, it should say that. So line protection. Just fix the alignment, move that over. And then again, once I've got that written, and I like the size of the text, I can simply just copy paste it. And I can say this is my TPZ or TPZ. Again, I can fix the alignment of this. I can line things up a bit so they look a bit more presentable. Okay, move my TPZ over a bit. And once I have those, I can even select both at once and copy paste and move those down. So this will be my 3/4 plywood protection, and this will be my bin placement. Again, spelling would be helpful, right? Okay, bin placement. So I'll get these nice and lined up, just so they look a bit cleaner. So now this little key is allowing me to distinguish what is the red dash, what is the orange dash, what is this transparent yellow overlay. It means it's 3/4 plywood. And the blue box is indicated by this key saying that's where our preferred bin location drop is going to be. Now, this is not complete, just a good demonstration of how you use a markup tool for indicating your strategy for protecting the exterior of a property. So what I recommend is come up with how you want to protect things by reviewing the scope of work first, work through it systematically, how you will drop material, drop bins, where you will park, while you're into the home, and what protection measures are necessary. Thanks.